Hello Internet, I'm Tommy the Keyblade Master and this is my channel. And welcome to what I'm calling Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles month. All month long I'm going to be posting reviews of all the Ninja Turtles games I have in my collection, and I'll try to be doing that on a weekly basis, about 3 reviews a week on all these Ninja Turtles games. I don't own every Ninja Turtles game ever created. There's plenty of holes in my collection, and I will admit that. But I do own games from all 3 eras of the Ninja Turtles. That would be the original 80s cartoon era. I have games based on the 4Kids version, and finally I have a few on the Nickelodeon version as well, and I will be reviewing these and telling you what I think of it. So let's start at the beginning, which unfortunately is this lump of dung for the NES. Alright, the NES version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was created back in 1989 during the boom of the original 1980s cartoon series. If you haven't watched it, I'll warn you, it's cheesy, it's crazy, but it can be really good when it's at its best. It hasn't aged perfectly, but I still like it. But anyways, on with the game. Konami made this in 1989 under their Ultra brand. That's why you see Ultra Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But if you were one of the ones who downloaded it off the Nintendo Wii shop, or if you check out the copyright notices in front, it says Konami. It has to do with Nintendo's legal mumbo jumbo that they had for game developers back then. But anyways, Konami developed it, and people were disappointed when it first launched. I bought this game thinking I was going to be getting the arcade version, and one of my friends tried to cue me in to get the other Ninja Turtles game, thinking that he was wrong. To that friend, I apologize. To everyone else who says this is the worst Ninja Turtles game ever made, I kinda disagree. However, it's a bad game nonetheless. And it's not a bad game that goes into the ultimate pile of crap bucket. It's one of those games that just needed a lot more polish before it was ready to be released. And it's not just one flaw that sinks the ship, but several small ones that, if you put them together, just makes this game one big mess. Which is kind of unfortunate. If this game turned out good, it would have been the Black Sheep Ninja Turtle game, similar to Zelda 2. Good, but not like the others. Unfortunately, what we have here is just a big steaming pile of turtle doo-doo. Alright, before we begin, I need to start off by telling you this is not the NES version I'm reviewing, but the Wii Virtual Console version. It was put up on the Virtual Console for a little while in 2007 because Ubisoft and Konami were able to strike a deal, and Ubisoft wanted these games up in celebration of the 2007 CGI Ninja Turtles movie. They released the arcade version for the Xbox at the same time. However, since then, Ubisoft has lost the Ninja Turtles license, so this game has been pulled. You can still, however, buy the NES version that is still on the market and on eBay. However, after watching this, you might want to question yourself if you do have a system that can play NES games. Alright, now let's talk about the story. I'll be perfectly honest, when it comes to these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games, the stories aren't that inspired. In fact, they're pretty much the same thing over and over again and recycling tropes from the classic show. Mainly the number one trope from that classic show was April O'Neil, the one woman who's been kidnapped more times than Princess Peach and Lois Lane combined, gets kidnapped again, and the Turtles have to go out and rescue her. Now, I'll give this game's story a little bit of credit that it's not where it ends. Rescuing April ends on the end of stage 1, then she tells you about the dam being set with explosives, and the Turtles have to go deactivate them, and then they find out Splinter's been captured, and each stage ends with something that leads you into a next new story element, I guess. However, the story's pretty basic, and it doesn't really matter in the stage, because there's little to no exposition except for when you pause the game. Still, I say it's a little bit better than your average Mario Brothers game at the time, but not by much. Alright, let's talk about the mess that this game calls graphics. Now just take a look at the characters and the enemies' designs. Even the ones you recognize like the Foot Ninja, the Mousers, and the bosses Rocksteady and Bebop look incredibly sloppy. The backgrounds are pretty plain Jane too. The only time I can give this game compliments is the few outside roof stages that you go through. The city backdrop does look kind of nice. But next to that, you also have some terrible flicker. Now take a look at this video. It's not exactly the best example I've run into over the years of flicker, but if you notice the bottom whenever I get hit or attacked during this segment, since there's more enemies than normal on screen, the bottom kind of flashes. When it's really full, the bottom just goes haywire whenever you try to make a move. It's nuts. And don't get me even started on some of the new characters Konami added to the game. Yeah, all your old favorites from the classics are gone. No Krang, no Leatherhead, they're all gone. Instead, what we get is naked alien Tatsu, a chainsaw-wielding maniac, a guy on fire, and don't ask me what these are. All of these new enemies in this game are just creepy and bizarre. It just doesn't fit the more laid-back, cartoonish antics of the original 1980s cartoon series at all. Well, at least I have some good news when it comes to the music in this game. It's actually quite catchy. Take a listen to this. Alright, so it's not going to win the best music in an NES game ever, but the music is quite catchy. And compared to what the rest of the game has to offer, it's this game's one silver lining. The game's sound effects are pretty basic, just your standard sword swipe sound effects and your explosion sound effects when you defeat enemies. It's nothing too great, but it's nothing to complain about either. Alright, we're going to go on to the gameplay now. And what can I say about the gameplay? It's mediocre as hell. However, I'm going to start off with at least some of the good ideas, or ideas that would have been good if implemented properly. First, each Ninja Turtle is different. Leonardo's all around good. He can attack in all directions and forward, and he's fairly fast, but his attacks are kind of weak. Raphael's attack's a little stronger, and he can attack in all range too. However, his size are pathetic in their range. Michelangelo's fast, and his attacks are downwards. And then Donnie's ultra slow, but ultra powerful and ultra long range. Outside of the first stage, he's the best turtle in the game. And finally, I have to say that I do enjoy the fact that it's got an adventure game aspect to it. You have to move around in a map. You have to go through sewerways and tunnels to get to new places, similar to Zelda 2 or an RPG like Dragon Quest. So those aspects in the game are fine. Unfortunately, there's a few things that get screwed up. Let's go back to the fact that each Ninja Turtle is different in this one and take a look at them again. Now remember, it's a good idea that each one is different. I like that idea. Unfortunately, only two of them are worth using. Leonardo for the regular enemies, because his quick attacks that cover all ranges are good, and he's long range enough to make a difference. And Donatello for the stronger enemies. Raphael and Michelangelo are too low range to really make a difference. Michelangelo cannot attack anything that's on his head or really right in front of him, and Raphael is just so short range that to battle any enemy with him means he's going to get hit. And if that wasn't bad enough, each turtle has his own life bar, and when one dies, you lose him until you can find him and rescue him again. If you can find him and rescue him. So it really makes a big difference if Donatello or Leonardo get captured. It's all of a sudden your game gets a whole lot harder, and it's for the wrong reasons. And lest I forget, let's talk about that damn level again. This stage just sucks. Let me get that out there right now, front and center. It just blows. The controls are awful while swimming. Dodging anything is impossible. You have got a time limit. You've got to watch the health of your turtles, because dying sends you clear back to the beginning. And let's not forget about this part right here, where it's almost impossible to dodge that seaweed, and you're probably going to lose at least one turtle trying. That Bad thing is it's not a bad idea on paper. If the controls didn't suck, this would have been a fun stage. But let's get to the final nail in the coffin for this game. And it's a mixture of two things that on its own would have been fine, but when you combine them together, they make just one giant steaming pile. First, you have awkward controls. I wouldn't call them bad controls. Bad would mean something else. They were deliberately set up to be this awkward. And then finally you got stage design that makes a Mario game seem simple in comparison to the platforming you have to do in some areas. Put them together and the game just doesn't work. You just end up getting frustrated because you fall into pits or you fall off a ledge and have to go clear through the stage again to get back to where you were. It's a frustrating mess. Now let me get this on record. I do not hate this game. It has some good points in it to where it's fun, and I have some very nostalgic attachment to it, having played it as a little kid who was a big fan of the Ninja Turtles. However, it has not aged well. The controls are broken. The stage designs do not work with the controls at all, making what could have been salvageable a complete mess. It is no longer on the Virtual Console. I wish Ubisoft had gotten some of the better NES Ninja Turtles games on there and not just this one. You can still find it on the NES, but I only urge absolute die-hard Ninja Turtles collectors or die-hard NES hoarders to go after this game. It is just not a fun game. It's not enjoyable. But it's not the worst Ninja Turtles game I've played, nor is it going to be the worst one I'm going to be reviewing this month. Actually, one of the newer ones that I played is a whole lot crappier and more broken than this one, believe it or not. But you'll just have to find out which one it is later on. For now, I can't review Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for the NES, because I don't have my own copy able to review. If I am able to get my hands on my own copy of the game in a way that I can review it, I will post that review to YouTube. In the meantime, I do have the arcade game that was put on the Xbox 360, and I will be taking a look at that pretty soon. So feel free to click on subscribe if you want to continue watching. I'm going to be reviewing a lot of other Ninja Turtles games this month, so stay tuned. If I had to give a number rating to this big steaming pile of dew, I would give it a 1.5 out of 5. If the controls operated just a little bit better, if the stage design was just a little bit better, if the turtles themselves attacks were just a little bit better, this game could have been a good game. And that is why it is such an infuriating piece of crap in my opinion.